This is Knox County, an absolutely beautiful little county in the heart of Kentucky. It does have one tiny problem though, the massive zombie population. These undead horrors took over the entire area in a matter of days. Now, several weeks after the outbreak began, the government learns that a military base within the area has managed to create a vaccine. My mission is to retrieve it. To do this, I will be playing as an Insurgent class, which starts with most combat stats already near max and lots of equipment. Specifically, I took the shotgun perk, since I figured the military base was going to involve a lot of tight corridors that a shotgun would be perfect for. After selecting my stats and quickly customising my character, I began my infiltration by being airdropped about half an hour's walk from the secret military base in the corner of Knox County. The very first thing I did when I landed was to check the area around me was clear, then sort out my inventory. For my firearms, I had a shotgun and a pistol, and my melee weapon, which was my trusty combat knife. I would be relying almost exclusively on this knife, since any gunshots would attract zombies from miles around, something which I would rather not do until I got closer to the target. I also had a sledgehammer, which would be really important to tear down walls if I got cornered. As for explosives, I had 3 pipe bombs, 3 fire bombs, and 3 smoke bombs. It was then that I also checked my extraction point and found that it was the prison. This actually worked out pretty well, because in the grand scheme of things, the prison wasn't super far away from the base, maybe only a day or so walk away. To get to the base, I decided it would be safer to try and stick to the woods as much as I could, and avoid the dirt roads where possible. First thing I noticed is that there were so many zombies everywhere. I had to do my best to avoid getting dragged into combat, because I knew there were many more zombies wandering in the trees, and the second I started fighting, they would be drawn by the sound. Eventually, I managed to find an actual road and the outer fence of the facility. However, I ended up getting cornered by a large group of zombies, and panicking, I stupidly pulled out my shotgun. You see, in my head, I had a great plan. I would kill most of this group and use the sounds of the gunshots to draw all the nearby zombies away from the outer fence checkpoint. That way, I could get into the facility easier. But I really didn't appreciate just how many zombies there were, and soon I became overwhelmed and threw a firebomb to try and give myself some breathing room. Somehow that actually managed to work, and I was able to slip away from the horde and sneak back into the outer facility through the gatehouse. I quickly came across a large group of more than 10, which I decided I had to fight because I didn't want to risk them coming up behind me later when I started fighting in the facility. As the fight went on, just more and more zombies kept coming. Since I was only using my knife to fight, I had to get up close and personal with every zombie, which turned the fights into a brutal bloodbath. Once this group was done and dusted, I finally got towards the front door of the facility, but it was blocked by a group of zombies banging against the glass. Now, there was far too many of them in too tight of a space for me to confidently fight them with my knife. Instead, I wanted to deal with them and any other groups as quickly as possible, so it was time to run and gun. I stood in the middle of this small area and began shooting down every single zombie that got anywhere near to me. Eventually though, the zombies from inside the facility began smashing their way out, and realising there were too many of them, I threw a pipe bomb. Now, what I didn't realise is that the pipe bomb would not only explode, but would also start to spread fire. This was real trouble for me, as now I had to storm into the facility and fight my way through to find the vaccine before the fire did. So I went in and began clearing corridor by corridor with a shotgun. My biggest problem was that it was so dark that I couldn't see shit. After a few minutes, I managed to find and secure the vaccine. Now it was time to get the hell out of this place before it burnt down, so I grabbed my sledgehammer and began smashing down the walls. Quickly, I found myself on the outside of the base, so I worked my way round to the car park and began clearing it. I desperately needed a car to get out of here as quickly as possible, because there were just too many zombies for me to deal with. As I got close to finishing clearing the area, my knife broke. A shame, but hey, it'd gotten me this far. Soon, I managed to hotwire a working car. Now, it didn't have much fuel left, but it was the best I had, so I began driving away. My next objective was to get my ass over to the military base and get evac'd with the vaccine as quickly as possible. The car I had was really struggling on the dirt roads and quickly ran out of fuel, only managing to get me around halfway out the forest, so I had to walk the rest of the way on foot. I was beginning to get peckish when I found a small house off the beaten path. Going inside, I closed all of the curtains, and thinking I was safe, I began eating and taking off my ripped clothes to clean them, or swap them over with ones in the house. Unfortunately, as I was sorting this, zombies broke in. It seems I was either being too loud or was followed and was not really paying attention as I was sorting out my gear. I had to lock myself in the bedroom and jump out the window. Now I was beginning to get exhausted, so the very next house I found, I cleared out all of the zombies in the area and locked myself inside. Once I was confident that I was actually safe this time, I cleaned myself and started to sleep, but was only able to sleep till about 1:50 am. At 5 am, I left the house again and made my way across a field towards the prison. On the road leading up to the prison, I did find this woman with an axe in her back, so I killed her and took it to use as a perfect new melee weapon. I managed to pass the guardhouse with ease and activated my radio tracker so I could see just how far I needed to go. This time, I had a very different plan about fighting zombies, and from the beginning threw a firebomb and began shooting because I just needed to be evac'd, and the state of the prison didn't matter. Unfortunately, the prison was filled with hundreds of zombies, with dozens of them being in every corridor. Quickly, I learned I couldn't afford to be bogged down fighting in these corridors, because as soon as I did, either too many zombies would pile in towards me for me to effectively kill, or more would come up behind me. My tactic instead was to basically charge past these zombies whenever I could, and only begin fighting when absolutely necessary. Soon, I found myself at the evac point, which was a small courtyard in the middle of the prison. While I was waiting for evac, literally dozens of zombies began piling into the courtyard. My tactic was to throw the last of my firebombs and bombs and run around in a large circle. The concept here was to basically round the zombies into a large group and let them burn to death, using my shotgun to deal with any stragglers that got too close to me. This was so intense, as I had come so far and was so close to being evacuated that I really did not want to die now. Unfortunately, a thunderstorm began that seemed to make the fire less effective, but their numbers were still whittling down. I began to run out of ammo. I just barely managed to survive long enough for the helicopter to land and get me the hell out of this vile place.